over 10 years by u/even marketing 3752. This happened in the late 90s. I, Catherine, female 43, and my friend, Rose, female 42, met him together. My stalker was a guy Rose and I met on the bus one day coming home from my volunteer work after school as a candy stripper at the local hospital. We were on the bus going home, laughing and talking, and this guy just randomly sits by us and starts talking. He tells us his name and we laugh, thinking he said his name was Gay. Yeah, stupid teenage girls. He corrected us and said his name was Jay. We talked a bit more and innocently gave him our names, and he asked for my number, but I said no. He was like 7 years older and kinda strange the more we talked to him. He got annoyed, but whatever, right? So we thought that was that. A few days, maybe a week later, me and the same friend run into Jay while switching buses downtown. I was going to her house like I did a few times a week when we run into him. He asked for me to hang out and watch him play hockey that night. I said no, I was going to my friends. He got weirdly annoyed and kept trying and bugging me, telling me about how much fun it would be and trying to get me away from my friend. He really didn't want her to come to this hockey game either. Just wanted it to be us. So weird. Our bus finally came and we got out of there fast. Over the next few weeks I kept running into him downtown. It was like he knew my schedule, and every time I tried to be nice but get away as fast as I could, and every time he would get annoyed because I wouldn't hang out. A few weeks passed and I'm at school and in walks Jay. I was so mad and frustrated and I snap on him. Why was he here and how did he know what school I went to? Did he follow me on the city bus? He tried saying that he was there to see his friends, but he wasn't with anyone, just a 25-year-old guy wandering around the high school. After that, I would randomly see him on my bus, and he would always try to sit across from me and watch. He would still ask for us to hang out, and I would still say no. As time went on, he would still find me on the bus and sit across from me with who I guess was his girlfriend or a girl he was trying to make me jealous with. He would look at me while making out with her. He would do everything he could to make me feel uncomfortable. I would either turn up my music and do my best to ignore him or move to another spot. Nothing ever seemed to deter him. He never did anything bad enough to call the police, but he knew it was wrong and he knew it bothered me, and he knew I would have a panic attack, and I'm sure he got off on that. As the years went on, I would see less and less of him. He would randomly pop up and make me uncomfortable. He started standing really close to me and trying to talk. I would have a panic attack and do my best to ignore him. I would still walk away and he would just get more pushy. Every time I would run into him, I text my friend that was there when we first ran into him and get her to calm me down. It's now 2023, so 24-ish years since it all started, and I haven't seen him in the last maybe 8+ years, and I'm just praying that I never see him again. I'm 43, so he must be going on 50, and I'm still scared to run into him. I've thought I saw him a few times in panic, but it wasn't him. I hope I never see him again. I was stalked in my student accommodation by u/please help 793. I'm 19 years old and living far from home in a studio room. I'm often up late, and last week I was just doing some laundry around 11 p.m.-ish. I saw a man sitting in the lobby. I saw him around a bit at night, but I didn't think much of it. I'm in the laundry room. I just put my clothes in the dryer, and I hear the laundry room door beeping. It meant someone was coming in. There was the man, standing there with no clothes to wash, just staring at me. I maneuvered around him and headed to the lifts. He followed me quickly and cornered me and asked for my Snapchat. I was tired and just wanted to get back to my room, so I stupidly gave it to him. I figured he'd message and try to flirt. I'd say, "I have a boyfriend. Sorry if you thought this was anything else," and that would be the end of it. Anyway, he starts messaging me. It's kind of normal. Then he starts saying weird stuff like, "I saw you a month ago, and I was impressed. I've been visiting a friend and staying here. And I've been watching you. I noticed that you come out mostly at night." He told me that he was only visiting for 5 more days. Then it gets worse. He says, "I love you. I can't help it." And then I say I have a boyfriend. He says, "I only want you," and continues to completely ignore that. He asked to come to my room and I said no. Then he wanted a hug. He asked me if I lived alone and if I was a virgin. He kept saying he loved me and that I was perfect for him and that I impressed him. At that point, I recorded all the messages on Snapchat, spoke to him a little bit more to gather evidence so that I could take it to reception in the morning. He's been watching me for a month. I got my guy friend who lives on the second floor to walk me down to the laundry room. We sat in the student lounge area and my friend calmed me down. I was shaking with adrenaline and fear. We saw him around the laundry room again, looking for me, but luckily I'd already picked it up. I ran back to my room and my friend says that I can stay in his room, but I said it's okay. I'll just lock my door. It's about 1 a.m. and I hear someone outside my room trying to get in. I asked my friend if he's outside my room and he said no, so I just froze. I didn't want to make a sound. I felt sick to my stomach and helpless. Eventually it stopped and whoever it was went away. In the morning I reported this to reception and then went to stay a few days with my boyfriend. Then, after, went to London to visit a friend, and last night was the first time I'd spent the night in my room since this happened. I'm very paranoid now. Sadly, I should probably be used to this. It's not the first time I've been sexually harassed. One guy tried to kiss me in a club by grabbing my head, and a bunch of other things that have happened that I won't go into here. But anyway, I'm terrified to go outside my room after dark. I'm constantly looking over my shoulder and feeling paranoid. High School Crush Turned Stalker by u/betelgeuse. I've been a little afraid to post this anywhere as I've been fearful of potential retaliation if my stalker happened to see this. A few years have passed though, and I feel ready to tell this story in detail. I knew my stalker. In high school, he was my biggest crush. I was a freshman and he was a senior when we met. I always thought the story of how we found each other belonged from a movie. It was the age of Tumblr, 500 Days of Summer, and I swear in high school my whole life existence felt dependent on finding some sort of movie-like romance. One day I was walking home from school and found a note on the ground. It was two students talking to each other, making jokes, clearly something they were passing around in class that somehow ended up outside. The note was signed with a very unique name that was hard to forget. Let's call him Nuri. So the name Nuri is stuck in my head because I found it so unique. I was scrolling on Facebook the same day and Nuri had commented on one of my friend's Facebook posts. I was thinking, oh my gosh, that's the guy whose note I found. I responded to one of his comments saying something like, "This sounds crazy, but I randomly found one of your notes on the ground after school today." We ended up talking a ton over text and Facebook for the next few months. I was smitten. I thought he was one of the most beautiful people I'd ever seen. We texted like we were boyfriend and girlfriend, but after waiting months to even bring up meeting each other, the idea felt so scary and awkward. We would do cute things like hide notes for each other around the school. He'd leave me comics in a hidden spot in the library, leave me Sour Patch Kids, my favorite candy, etc. We did eventually meet, but it ended in me being sent home by the cops. I snuck out with a friend one night to meet him on the beach, and since it was past curfew, the cops found us and sent us home. I was grounded for months. That was the end of it. Fast forward to a few years ago. I had left our hometown for school and was working at a restaurant downtown in a biggish city while I finished my courses. He had disappeared off the map, but last I saw on social media, he was living in California. I can't remember why, but one day he reached out. We were catching up at social media and laughing at all of our puppy love antics from back in the day. Everything seemed normal. One day at work, I took a break and checked my phone and saw I had 15 messages from him. He was sending me music, saying random things, like old expressions I used to use in high school. Then he was begging me to answer back since it had been a little while since I responded. Again, I was working. It was enough of a sudden influx in messages that I was thrown off. I stopped responding to him from pretty much that day forward. But the messages didn't stop. They became poems, random nonsense. One example of a series of texts he sent, context, he was replying to a picture of a pumpkin I carved for Halloween. A little imperfect pumpkin sat on a wall. The little imperfect pumpkin had a great fall, and all the queen's men couldn't put little imperfect pumpkin together again. And what if the wind came out of a loud cloud by night, chilling and killing your little imperfect pumpkin? What's gonna save it from falling away? A few days later he sends, knock knock. She's around here somewhere. I can feel it. Spidey senses tingling. Ah, so that's where she is. Must be real serious this time. Heads around back and sees it, a cellar door, guarded by mermaid roses and red lipstick smooches. Impenetrable. Gently approaches, Neil, and drops in a note before slightly slinging away. MJ, we knew the time would come. I'm just about finishing the fight at home, and sense a much bigger threat creeping around the corner. I can only fight so many bad guys alone. Magic, my name. You're my only hope. Just give me a sign. I'll know how to read it. Your friendly, out-of-this-world neighborhood Spider-Man. Another example. Contact light. Capcom, do you read me? Mission Control, are you there? Radio silence. This is your captain speaking. I've awakened from cryo-sleep to code a super red warning. The star's gravity field propelled my ship into orbit, impossible to escape. The star is collapsing, splitting at the seams, and now the whole thing is tumbling down. A champagne supernova in the sky. This is my final transmission aboard. My Instagram name. I'm coming home. The final message I got before I blocked him was him responding to a video of my dog where I said, "He's so perfect." He responds, "What if he disobeys your commands? Is he perfect then? Besides, there's more fun to be had when one side is playing hard to get and the other is playing fetch. I'm gonna fetch me some of that my Instagram name. Do you know where I can get some of that sweet, not following the rainbow on this one? That would take me to a pot of mold, and you wouldn't lead me to a pot of mold, would you?" I blocked him. Months went by. One day I was at work and walked by a table when a man tapped me on the shoulder. It was during COVID time, so everyone was wearing a mask. This man had a bright Sour Patch Kid mask on. My heart sunk. It had been years, but I know those dark, empty eyes. The man said, "If I want to get a drink, do I order with you?" I mumbled something like, "Let me grab a bartender," and ran to the bathroom to lock myself in. I texted one of my friends from high school who understood the types of messages I've been getting from him, and said, "Oh my god, Nuri is here." She responded, "Oh yeah, I didn't tell you, but he's been reaching out to me about you. He said he doesn't know why you blocked him, and he feels like you're playing some twisted game." The last thing he said to me about it was, "I just have to know she's okay." I hid in the back and called my dad, who told me to unblock him and get confirmation that he was in fact there for me. I did so and typed, "Why are you here?" He said, "I'm just following the rainbow." I ran outside to get fresh air, and he followed me out and tried to talk to me and followed me back when I ran away. My dad had to pick me up and escort me to my apartment with a gun. This man planned this whole thing. He found out where I worked, packed his bags, flew across the country, booked a hotel directly next to my job, found out which day I was working, got dressed, bought gifts, and came in. He handed a pouch to the bartender to give me when he realized I was hiding in the back. It had a Harry Potter pin that said "Always," a bag of Sour Patch Kids, and a creepy cryptic note. I texted him a long text telling him to never come near me again, and he responded, "I knew something was wrong since I haven't heard from you since the full moon of January 2020. I kept watching my back for a few weeks, but didn't ever hear anything again. 2 years have passed, and I thought I was in the clear. Until a few months ago. I got a notification on my phone from Instagram. It was one of his accounts, liking one of my old photos. I have this unshakable feeling that somehow he will be back. Unfortunately, I can't do a damn thing about it, but hope I never see him again. To my insane, delusional high school stalker, I hope we never meet again. I think a man has been watching me. Tonight, I met him. By u/Donfire05. I currently live in an RV in my mom's driveway. My town is just larger than small, and it's relatively safe. Lots of rich people, doctors, live here, so it's kept very nice and crime is relatively low. I never expected something to happen to me, but tonight I met a man and he was a reminder to me to always lock my door. Sometimes I forget to lock my door, even while sleeping, and it's never been a big deal to me because my town is generally safe. But I'll be locking my door now. It was 2 a.m., and I took my garbage outside to the bin. When I turned around, I noticed a figure in the dark walking towards me. I started to quickly walk away, but he spoke to me. He was a short man, probably in his 50s or 60s. I'm 23 and female. He started talking to me about my living in the RV, and I took charge of the conversation to shut it down quickly. He told me what house he lives in and his name. He was being polite, but very creepy. I'm sure nearly every woman gets what I mean. That older man kinda creepy and too polite to you because you're a pretty young woman. He told me I should come by his house sometime, and I'm like, yeah, sure. Maybe one day. Have a good night. And I walked back to my RV and locked the door. I figured he'd have left, but he didn't. I don't have curtains on my window right now, and I could hear him pacing outside my window and mumbling to himself. I was just hiding, but I wanted to lock the door by my bed. It doesn't open at all anyway, but I decided to lock it regardless. I got up and looked outside, and he was staring right at me. He was waving his hand at me to get my attention, walking right up to my window and acting so erratic. It was so different from the guy I just met. I locked my door and he watched me, and after that he left my window. I felt like he was still there. 5 or so minutes passed, and then he's knocking at my RV door. I don't know if he tried to get in or not. It's just a flip handle, so I can't hear it or anything. I just waited there for an hour before I grabbed a knife and ran into my mom's house. I'm definitely getting a taser and a gun. I think he'd been standing across the street watching me. There's no reason for him to have just been outside my RV at 2 a.m. I think he's been watching me too. People shouldn't really know that I live in the RV. Walking down the street, that's not something I take notice of. I've only even started to pay attention to RVs and driveways since I started living in one, and still I don't notice if people actually are living in them or not. Maybe I'm being naive, but it makes me wonder if he's been watching me, seeing that I live in the RV day after day. I don't go outside of my RV, I'm a homebody, so he'd have to have been staring into my RV to really even notice someone actually living in it. This terrifies me. I was so afraid of his intentions. He made me realize that even though I'm in a safe town, I'm still a young, pretty woman. I'm a target on men's lists. It sucks this is our world. It sucks that there's men out there who are like this towards women. Alright guys, that's it for tonight's video. If you enjoyed, please consider subscribing, leave a like, and leave a comment down below. My name is In It for the Spooks, and please remember to stay spooky.